You know, last time we talked about the load. Last time you was in. Now you're starting to get that now.
When I do get that, it's definitely a difference.
Yeah. So now we're gonna implement. You hear a lot of people say, "Oh, square up, stay squared up," and not a lot of people know what that means. Well, what that means is at the next level, even when I used to work in high school, I used to always want to work in line with the pitcher. And a lot of people they don't misuse it, but they don't have an idea of, well, what is that? And when I was in high school and learning from a professional hitting instructor, I was that guy. What is that? What is that, and how do I do it? Show me.
Right.
That's a lot of things where a lot of hidden instructors, they can't do. They can't show you. They'll tell you, hey, stay back. Okay, well, what does stay back mean? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't like that term, stay back, because honestly, I don't want my weight back. But a lot of people use these terms, and they want to see you do good. Don't get me wrong. They want to see you do good. But the terms don't get translated well, all right? And when we're talking about staying in line to the baseball, well, keep your weight back, stay back, well, that all plays into the point of, because if your weight's back, well, the first thing you're gonna do is go to the left side. That's the only way you can go. There's no way that if you stride and you got 80% of your weight back, as in the stay back, there is no way you can work linear to the ball, and linear means straight. There's no way you can work straight to the ball if your weight is totally back. Mm-hmm. That's why you always see big leaguers, when you break them down and things like that, they're front foot hitters. All big leaguers are front foot hitters.
Right, you can tell also because the back foot off the ground, putting their weight up here.
Yeah, if you look at how Griffey was and even Bryce Harper, mm-hmm. Well, they get all of that into the baseball, but in a straight line. You know what I mean? Yeah, you see the rotation. Staying linear. What does that mean? What does staying square mean? What does stay back mean? All right, we're gonna work with staying linear to the point of contact. What that means is that staying square to the ball means you don't want to commit. And we talked about that already, but very briefly. You don't want to commit to the pull side first. I see a lot of young hitters, they get in there and they want to use their hips and they want to use their shoulders because they want to create power. You can't create power. You're born with power. You're born a hitter. You're born a power hitter. You're born a home run hitter. You don't automatically turn into a home run hitter. You don't. You're born a home run hitter. You're born a hitter first in order to hit for power. Jose Altuve is not a power hitter, but he's an MVP. This game is different than any other game, you know? So when we talk about guys like that, Jose Altuve is a hitter first. Tony Gwynn was a hitter first. Pete Rose was a hitter first. He didn't hit for power. Barry Bonds was a hitter first. Hank Aaron hit like 25 home runs for 95 years. I don't think he ever hit over like 35. I don't know. I could be wrong. But the thing that those guys in the Hall of Famers, Tim Raines, Tony Gwynn, you know, I like Rafael Palmeiro, all those old school guys first. You know, Albert Pujols. That guy does situational hitting better than anybody because he don't like to commit to that side. If it's a man on second base with no outs, well, he's going to try to drive the ball into the gap to the right side. And yeah, he's a big boy, and all of a sudden you put 95 on it, and he's staying in line like we saying, and you put 95 on it, and you're trying to drive the ball into the gap the other way, then there's a line drive into the gap, right field, homer. You know, but when we're talking about moving in the correct position, we don't want to commit to the left side too early. It's going to happen. We're going to rotate, and when we rotate, that means we rotate to our pull side. It happens naturally, but we cannot work that way first. You cannot tell a young hitter, hey, to get your hips, and create power, because if you create power, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to use your hips and your shoulders. The two key things is what destroys swings. All right? Oh, I want to get my hips, I want to get my shoulders in. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my hips and I'm going to get my shoulders in. Yeah, I can hit that ball. It's not moving. What about when you get Kershaw and it starts on the outer half and he comes in with that nasty cutter? It's 93 and it late breaks on you, and now you're already committed to this side, and now you hit the ball off of your shin, broken shin, done for 6 to 8 months. That's because you commit too early. Guys who use shin guards too early. And that's why you hit a lot of balls off your shin. I don't hit a lot of balls off my shin. I'm also not the best baseball player to ever live either. You know what I mean? But players that stay in line are less likely to hit the ball off their shin, because if you're in line right here and you work that way, well, now if the ball comes in, you're naturally going to rotate and you're naturally going to pull the ball the right way. But you have to set up in line first. You can't set up thinking rotate or get your hips first, because even though that's what the swing does, in your mind it's going to destroy you, because all that stuff has to happen at the right point. When you see guys like this, you know, posing like this, it's because, number one, and nobody ever says this, number one, they already know the pitch location and they already know whether they're going to swing or not. But what we do as fans, and we idolize these guys and we want to be like these guys so much, and they can't give the information to us because they're untouchable. So what we do is we try to get all this information. And the only way we can get to it is YouTube, or by cards and seeing pictures and visualizing their swings and trying to do it on our own, because we don't have that, person that's going to take us to the next level or how they got in the big leagues. So what we do is we try to do it, and we do it the wrong way, So let's get here. Like I told you yesterday, the first thing is we set up. I always like to think I'm going to set my body up a little bit right of the second baseman. That's why I want to drive the ball every time. And I let my body dictate what happens next. Whether I'm going to stop and it's inside, or I'm going to stop, that's a slider outside, look like a fastball and it broke late, or I'm set up out there and boom, he left it in my wheelhouse on the inner part and my body reacted to it. But you have to set up in line sometimes to the I'm thinking, but your body is going to do a different thing. But we have to think about that first, because if we think the opposite way, and like I say, getting our shoulders and our and our hips into it first, then we're going to put ourselves in not a so good situation. And then now, when we're not in a good position, committed already before the ball is halfway and I'm already committed, I don't even know if that's a ball or strike yet. I don't even know if that's a cutter or slider. I don't even know if that's a changeup. You know what I mean? And now the only thing we can do now is pray and hope that a guy who makes $14 million a year make a mistake. Not gonna happen. Sorry. It's not. It's the reason why they get paid. It's the reason why they don't make a lot of mistakes. Like I say, that being said, this is the right way. Not a lot of people talk about it because a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't have the experience. Doesn't make me better than anybody. But the terminology. When somebody tells you, hey, I want you to do something, you ask them, okay, please show me how. Show me how. Why do I want to be in that position? Why do I want to think that way? And it's not challenging somebody else. It's understanding. I always wanted to understand, okay, why? Because I had stupid pop. I hit 16 home runs in high school. Senior year, I hit 77 RBIs. Why in the hell am I trying to hit the ball to right field? If they wanted me to hit the ball to right field, they would have cut the field in half. Why? Because if you stay thinking to right field, your natural ability will take over and the science of the swing will take over, which is rotation, and it will automatically take over. It will take over. Don't force it. So with that being said, like I said, to work in a straight line, we always want to put our sights off a little bit to the right of second base. Because what that'll do, that'll still keep us aggressive enough to drive the ball out of the ballpark. We're not giving ourselves up. We're not slapping the ball. We're not doing any of that. I will never ever get mad at a player that want to go up and hit a home run in the right field. Because that will keep under control. And your body position is under control going to the right, a little bit right of the second base. You're in line, you're straight, you're in the middle. When you're in the middle, you can go left or right. When you're at left, it's harder to go right because you're on the left side. If you're on the right side, it's harder to go left because you're on the right side. Stay in the middle. In the middle, commit to the middle. And in baseball, committing to the middle is not so much in a straight line, it's gonna be off to the right. That is why they make you warm up to right field. And not a lot of people know that. All right? So keep that in mind. Want to work straight, want to work linear. Doesn't mean that we're going to inside out balls. We're not going to do that. And we're not going to hit ground balls. When Josh Donaldson say he don't like to hit ground balls, I understand that. But a lot of people think, oh, I want to go and hit fly balls. No. These guys get paid millions and millions of dollars. If the ball's in the air, it's an out. If it's a routine ground ball, it's an out. We want to hit the ball in the air on a line. And in order to do that, is to set up the right way. Berkman always told me when I played against Lance Berkman, he was like, hey, I want to get, when my foot get down and the ball's halfway, when my foot hits, my shoulder is buried. You can put my shoulder and it will not go forward. Why? Because I'm burying my front shoulder and all I'm doing is letting my hands and my backside work together in a straight line. If I do that, I know I'm going to be set up to do good. So I'll be set up to do good things. And also, my body's going to tell me what to do. After that, after I set up good, my body's gonna tell me, okay, hey, oh shoot, at the last minute the ball sunk in and it's a strike and now I'm one of the best in the world because I'm playing in the big leagues. I'll just let my natural ability take over because I'm one of the best. You know? So, and that's what Todd Helton and all those guys, older school guys, but great hitters. Great hitters, over 300 hitters. You know, and that is the way you set yourself up for success, not committing to one side. You don't want to commit to one side. You know, you don't. Who wants to, you know, it's like other sports. Who want to, you know, be super fast in football but can't catch? Or, you know, who want to be a good three-point shooter but can't drive in? I want to be all of those things. And in order for me to be all of those things, I have to set up the right way. It all all starts like that in baseball. When you step in the box, when you're out there in the field, what happens if you break the wrong way? If you break to the left and it's to the right, you're screwed. All right? That's why we stay in the middle. You know what I mean? That's why we don't, when we play outfield, we don't lean this way. We're cool if it goes that way, but what if it goes that way? All right? Infielders, that's why they stay in the middle, because they can go left or right. It's simple stuff that people overlook. It's simple stuff that people overlook because the game is there's so much technology in the game and there's so many analytics in the game, which those things are good to a certain extent, but if you know how to use them. Don't try to reinvent the game. The game's been here for over 100 years. You know? Let's stick to the normal way of baseball, and in order to be a good player, you have to be a hitter first, being able to drive the ball to all fields, let your natural ability take over, and then and everything else is gonna fall in place. You're gonna get your 20, your 30 homers if you got that kind of strength, you know, and that's just that's it, all in a nutshell, all in a nutshell.